Good afternoon, gentlemen. We are the San Diego State branch of Grant Construction. And today we'll be talking to you about the Union Valley Parkway project. So just for a quick introduction of our team, I'm Brendan Seitz. I was responsible for the K-Rail estimating, the bid docs, and the sub-bids.
Gustavo Maldonado, I was in charge of the schedule for this project.
Cameron Reed, I'm in charge of the drainage and the bid proposal worksheet.
My name is Evan McCall, and I was responsible for the roadway excavation and earthwork.
Jacob Chadell, I handled the pavement estimate.
Franz Fisher, my main focus was structural and minor concrete.
Okay. So here's some general information about this project. This project is a Caltrans District 5 project. There's no pre-bid meeting. Bids are due July 11, 2012 at 2 p.m. Engineer's estimate for this project was at $9.6 million, and Granite SESU came at $11.2 million. Pre-billing wages are required for this contract, and we're going to be bidding for the Caltrans 2006 standard plans and specifications.
Alright, so we're going to start with some vicinity map of this job. This is located in the county of Santa Barbara. It's in the city of Orcutt on Route 101 at Union Valley Parkway. Alright, so the general scope of this job is we're going to be installing a new overcrossing over Route 101. This is comprised of a 264-foot long, 61-foot wide bridge. It's a five-span box girder with utilities running through it. There's about 3,800 linear feet of Class 140 pile. Some things to note about this pile. One is there is a noise restriction from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. But that's not going to be an issue because we're not going to be doing those at night. Another thing that's a thing to note is that the soil conditions here are poorly graded sand that are densely packed, so the production rates for that should be pretty high. This is an export job with quite a bit of earthwork involved, and there's a 700 linear foot CMU sound wall that's replacing an existing earthen sound wall. There's also 15,000 tons of HMA paving on this job. This job is broken up into 2 stages, but stage 1 takes like the majority of the work. There are going to be 2 work areas, the east and the west side, and we're going to be building the bridge, the on and off ramps, and the Union Valley Parkway street improvements in stage 1. We're going to come back for stage 2 and do an HMA overlay of the 101 and striping.
Okay. The contract for Union Valley Parkway has a maximum of 260 working days. We anticipate that the contract will be awarded on August 10th, 2012. And I had a little mistake here. Our first working day is going to be October 4th, 2012, not July 11th, 2012. Our schedule shows completion work on September 16, 2013, which is 25 working days before our original contract allowed. Total duration for the project will be 12 months. Working hours for stage 1 are Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then for stage 2, we have a mixture of day work and night work. As you can see here, we have a lane closure chart. This shows times for the northbound and the southbound on Route 101. For the northbound, we have hours from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning. And then for the southbound, we have hours from 7 p.m. to 4 p.m. Since our bid was over $10 million, our liquidated damages are $8,300 per working day for every working day that we don't finish on time. Here's a breakdown on how we approach the job. So as you can see here, here's the overall stage 1. This is part of stage 1. Within stage 1, we broke it down onto first order of work, which is shown on here. We have site control and demolition. We have the roadway excavation right here. And then we have the construction of the bridge, which is right here. Construction of the bridge is going to start a few days after roadway excavation starts. And then after that, we're going to start with the storm drain improvements and finish off stage 1 with the on and off ramp improvements. After that, we have stage 2, which is the overlay work. And finishing our project is our project closeout. Total project duration is going to be 12 months.
All right, so the first bid item that we estimated that we're going to be talking about today is our K-rail. We had max use of 6,800 linear feet, all in stage 1, and we rented our K-rail from a granite yard 25 miles away. So we think we might have a slight advantage over competition because of that. We go to the next slide. So in red, we have the northbound K-rail, and in blue, we have the southbound K-rail and the quantities over there.
So for our next item we're going to talk about is item 34, the roadway excavation. We developed a unit cost of $9.30 and a quantity of 297,000 cubic yards. The payment for this item includes all of the roadway excavation, the earthwork involved with the roadway, and the embankments. So as mentioned earlier, we expect to encounter densely packed, poorly graded sands on this area. And this little image we see right here is an AgTech screenshot showing some of our cut and fill areas. We broke it into two major work areas. We have our east side, which is shown here, and then we have our west side, which is shown here. If we go to the next slide, we can talk more about how we perform the work. So as you see here, which that didn't come out very clear, but we have a basin that's going to be constructed right here. That was the biggest area of our excavation. We have some surplus that we're going to have here, so we're going to be hauling some of that surplus out. The rest of that was balanced. We balanced our cut and fill using scrapers and D9 dozers. Another thing to note in this area, we have our type Y1 material, the aerial deposited lead. It's a concern for us. We feel that it's a hazardous material, but according to the geotech report, the tested boring logs showed that it did not pose any immediate threat to the workers. So we were going to go ahead and still use that. We didn't have to haul it off site. We just needed to make sure we buried it in our fill areas, had at least a foot of cover, and it was at least 5 feet above the water table. And that wraps it up for this.
Transitioning to the next portion of work, we have item 49, which is our lean concrete base. As you can tell by this cross section, HMA is going to be placed on this, so changing our specs a little bit based off our standards. And we figured we'd place this with a roller screed and hand crews based off the quantity. We didn't feel it was relative to bringing a paving machine. With this image, you can see the general areas where our LCV is going to be placed, which is mainly on the ramps and a little bit on Union Parkway, and you can get rough quantities there. Going into items 49 to 50, which is our Class 1 and Class 2 aggregate subbase and base. Again, you can see by the cross section that the Class 1 is going to be placed under our LCB, and our Class 2 is going to be placed wherever we're not putting in LCB. And we approached this production based off max output we thought we could get from the plant. Based on these wide open areas you see and multiple access points, we believe it won't be an issue getting trucks in and getting that extra production. We also added some extra crew in there with a couple pieces of equipment to make sure we have enough laydown time. Going into our larger item of work. Oh, and again you can see the Class 2 sections right here. We use the same production method. Going into a larger item of work, we have item 52, which is hot mix asphalt. We approached this paving plan looking at our LCB processes and our base process, and again, also our general thought of how the project we built and the logical process of work would gain the best production not only on paving but also on our other items of work. To do this, we started out with doing all our base lifts on all our ramps and Union Valley Parkway. As you can see here, we started with the northbound off-ramp, and then we moved up to the northbound on-ramp, and then finally to the Union Valley Parkway base course. After we were done doing our base lifts, we came back and decided to do a 1500 cap. We chose this because we figured it would give us a better pavement mat and a better riding surface. It also gave us some extra longer poles, which we thought would increase production. After we were done with the east side, we moved on to the west side, we started out with the southbound on-ramp, and then moved up to the southbound off-ramp, and then finally we moved on to Union Valley Parkway. It's a little bit slower production because we have a median and some handwork. It's also a thicker structural section, which added an extra lift in there. And also, as we did on the east side, we decided to do another 1500 cap based on the same reasons. Gave us a better ride and also gave us longer pulls. After phase 1 was complete, we moved into phase 2, which is the 1500 overlay on north and southbound 101. And we took full advantage of the closure charts, which were full closure on northbound and a partial closure on southbound. With this, we were able to complete both sides in 2 shifts each. To wrap up HMA, we thought we would put together valuable productions that not only accounted for some of the more challenging areas and some lost time, but also gave us a more competitive bid.
So moving on to bid 64, to bid item 64, this is the structural concrete for the sound wall. It's not a big item. You can see it's only about 68 cubic yards. Our quantity takeoff came out to about 1 yard of that, which is significant because it is a final pay item. Much of the concrete is going right into this pile cap here on the 700-foot wall. You can see here's a detail of it. It's a case 1 pile cap. A lot of the other work in the CMU wall is covered under its own bid item under 66. So it was actually the structure X and backfill material that was our biggest part of this project. As we see here in the picture, this is along southbound 101, right in the location of the future sound wall. You can see it's pretty wide open, plan to open cut it. One very important thing to note, however, is that the owner sent a memo about an abandoned oil line, that oil pipe, and the first order of work there would be to wet tap that area. We didn't get a quote for the wet tap, however, we did put in our estimate a small crew to assist with the operation.
All right, so moving on to item 76, this is the 18-inch alternative pipe holder. Again, this is going to be performed in the same conditions, the 2 work areas, east and west of 101. And typically when we perform this, we like to use CSP or HDPE piping, but the plans required us to use SSRP or RCP. We weren't extremely confident in estimating or constructing SSRP, so we decided to move on to the RCP and be a little more conservative and comfortable with what we were doing. So we decided to order our material from Let It Flow Pipe Supply, and we ordered Class 5 pipe. We put a 3-inch rock bedding underneath the pipe to help us make grade quicker and increase productions. And although there is increased cost for the rock, it'll speed up the overall process and keep the price down. We then exchanged the haunch backfill material for a slurry, so that we did not have to worry about compaction on the underside of the pipe. So moving on, we show the layout of where this APC pipe is. It's between the on-ramps and off-ramps and 101 into the drainage basins primarily.
And now bid item 90, some minor concrete throughout miscellaneous construction. Again, not a big quantity, about 240 cubic yards. Takeoff came within a yard of that. Some of the items that are covered under it is this curb here, the A16, some A26 modified. There's about 11 cubic yards here in the spillway. There's 3 sidewalks, 3 curb ramps, and there's a 4 square foot test panel that has to be done with the truncated domes on the curb ramps. The logistics is what made this item a little bit of a challenge. They're all in phase 1, but they're spread on the east and the west side of the project. So we had to count for a little lost time, and we didn't get the ideal production that we wanted. Also, another, I guess our item of concern for this is the curb ramps. We've had problems in the past getting these things bought off because it is fine and delicate work. So we slowed the production rates way down to make them real reasonable and to avoid any kind of rework. Besides that, it's pretty straightforward, and I'd be happy to elaborate on it further if you have any questions. So we're going to move into the advantages and disadvantages we had on this project. A few of the advantages we had is this is our home market. We're very familiar with this owner. We're very familiar with the plans and the specs. And also that we can self-perform the major work items, especially the roadway X and as well as the paving. This project also opens up the possibility for some granite material supply, notably the AC and the aggregate. This is another benefit for the company. In terms of disadvantages, there is some reliance on key subcontractors, most notably the CMU wall, the electrical, as well as the pile driving. And there's also going to be some major in and out of town bidders, which is going to make it more competitive. So one of the features about granite construction is its promise to excellence and to its guide for future generations. We're always in the public eye, and we wanted to emphasize the safety of the public as well as our workers while balancing while balancing an efficient workload. For these reasons up here, we can ultimately feel that we can fulfill our goal of continuing a successful and valuable relationship between Caltrans and the San Diego State branch of Granite Construction.
So as Granite employees, we feel that honesty, integrity, and reliability are always necessary to incorporate when we're conducting business. We believe that our bid reflects these core values, and we can provide Granite with a profitable project. We look forward to providing a high-quality project to the owner and the surrounding communities. And we move on to the next slide. Finally, thank you for your time and attention. At this time, we would like to open it up to any questions that you may have.